everybody. Welcome back to Tailgating. I'm Bruce, and we're with Marcus and Daryl, and we got a topic that I think is relevant. That's why we stayed with this new format because I think we can be more relevant. We got a lot of feedback to say that they liked it, so we're going to be a little more relevant. But first, want to tell you, I just got my seventh grandchild was born.
Right.
Woo! I mean,
Right, congratulations.
yeah, thank you very
Congratulations.
much. I mean, the kid is 10 pounds, 2 ounces,
Whoa.
22 inches. So I think in 20 years, maybe that edition of Tailgate, we'll be talking about recruitment
Right,
for little Latimer. So we'll see.
right.
Anyway, the topic at hand right now is, as y'all know, LeBron James went past Kareem for, the most points scored in his career. And that led to a lot of people wondering, like, well, now who's the greatest, right? You look at the greatest, and there's a lot of different options, but some people kind of go down to two. I don't know if that correct or not. Some of it's emotion. I mean, it's really hard for me to figure out because is it emotion? Is it because, TV? What about the old school guys, mid school guys, current guys, future guys? We also like a lot of the market looks like, well, if you're with a Laker or a Boston, you're automatically one of the greatest. Like, I don't know. So what we're going to do when we set up a criteria, and we haven't gone through this. I don't know none of us know what we picked. So
Right.
probably maybe have different top fives. I don't know. We'll find out pretty soon. The key thing too is we're hoping all you guys will leave us a comment, like this, share it, but leave a comment because you may agree with us, may disagree. What's your top five? We'd like to know what your top five is because I think it's a nice conversation to have. But first, we're going to talk about our criteria. Then we'll talk about people we considered, and then we're going to go through, drum roll, the top five each one of us selected. So, with that, Marcus, what's
All
the,
right.
what's the criteria you used?
Well, I think for a complete basketball player or to be considered a top player, there's definitely a number of things that you can consider that would be these key elements to build the ultimate player. But I knitted it down to the five things that I thought were the most important to be considered in that greatest of all time conversation. So number one is having like the basketball IQ, understanding the game, knowing when to pass, knowing when to shoot, knowing when to drive, reading your opponents and just being able to read the court. The second thing for me was defense. Great players excel on both ends of the court, right? It's not just about scoring points, but can you immediately transition, get back down to the other end of the court and play some good defense? The third one, that's that Mamba mentality, and that's the work ethic and mental toughness. Like you bring it every single day. You show up, you show out, and even when you're tired, you never give up. You just continue. I still remember that time when Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles, I think, and he still went out and shot his free throws. Like that type of mental toughness. And then this is the most important one. This is a new one I added to my list. It wouldn't have been in my list maybe 10 years ago, but it's adaptability. The game is always evolving, always changing, and teams change, right? One minute you're playing the Dallas Mavericks, and this is the team, and a year later it's a completely different squad. So you have to be able to adapt. Are there players that didn't play the last time that you played that same team? So being able to adjust your game to not only the modern era that we're in today, which is definitely much more around like 3-point shooting and athleticism, but you also have to be adaptable to the players and the teams that you're up against on any given night. Number five is just teamwork and leadership. Now, in many cases, if you're like the greatest player on your team, you might be the captain. In some situations, you're not. But even if you're not the captain, you still demonstrate that informal leadership. Like everybody on the team looks at you. They follow you. They believe in you. Your energy sets the pace for the rest of the team.
Wow. Wow. That's a spectacular list. I need to go back and get my list updated.
That's
Criteria.
okay.
All right, Daryl, what's your criteria?
Don't expect me to give you some scientific theory like Marcus just did, because it ain't that serious, homeboy. Look, I'm going with the person, number one, the person who entertains me the most. Now,
Oh,
don't worry, Charles Barkley not on the list, even though he's an entertainer, you know. But
Okay.
are you going to entertain me? Are you going to help your team win? Are you going to make your teammates better? And I really wanted to put on there my list, okay, can you win championships? But then I would have to put Robert Horry on there, because he was, I mean, who has more championships than Robert Horry?
right.
So I left that off, and I strictly went with the heart thing. I mean, come on, y'all know how I am. I mean, I'm just one of those people. I just don't see it like everybody else. When you say Tupac is the best rapper of all time, I say it's Ice Cube.
Right. Well,
I mean, so this is a hard thing for me. It's okay, who do I love? Who do I enjoy? You know what I'm saying? I mean, Brady's great, but he's not the greatest of all time. Peyton Manning is in my in my book. You
yeah,
see what I'm saying? Like, look at Marco. You know me. Nah,
your,
for real, bro.
your
I
book
wouldn't
is
pay one red
overdue.
cent to see Brady. Yeah, I would. But still, so that's how I'm rolling with it. Who did I enjoy the most? How did they inspire me? What did I see them do that made me go, "Whoo, that boy is," and I want him on my team.
Mm.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
I like that. Who is on my team? I think I might select different people when you line up than maybe what my list came up. So let me give you my criteria, which is a totally different one. I was looking at so many different ideas, MVPs or who has the highest score or who had the most hiring in the league, and you look back about old school guys, you hear the argument, can old school guys play today? Can today play in old school days? Because it's a different game, kind of like Marcus said, it was a different game. So I consider all these guys are great athletes. They're all adaptable. So I think they'd all be great in any era. So
Hmm.
my background being in technology and analytics, I decided to come up with a way where I could add it up.
Got a formula,
So I
Daryl.
came up with the most important. So, there's personality. I put up with who won championships. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I made a point system of who won the most championships, second place, third place, fourth place, championships. But then, like you said, like Robert Horry won a bunch up there. Does he deserve to be on the list? I didn't think so. So that, he wasn't on there. And I'll show you my list earlier too, but also eliminated some great players that you might think should be up there. Like you just mentioned, Barkley, he's a great player. Didn't win anything, Karl Malone, great player, but he didn't win any. So he was out of my list. I also added two other things. And this goes back to Chris Bosh. When the Mavericks won their NBA, someone asked Chris Bosh, who's the greatest player in the NBA right now? And everyone anticipated that he was going to say LeBron, but he
Hmm.
didn't. He said Dirk Nowitzki. And he said, what? And he said, well, he's the best player on the best team. So that quote kind of drove me to thinking, so championships plus who won the most MVPs in a season, who won the most MVPs in the championship game? Because that would show in an analytical way who was
Hmm.
the best player on the best team. So I went that direction. So
Hmm. No,
it
I
didn't
think
seem to
it's
generate
great.
as much excitement, but nevertheless, that's what I did.
Well, no, I like the fact that you used the point system, Daryl. You said I was all scientific. It seems like Bruce applied a little more scientific property to his
Yeah.
assessment of criteria.
Well,
yeah.
it led to a couple of heartbreaks for me of who I thought I would emotionally have picked versus what the number says. So we'll see. I don't know. But just right now, Marcus, who did you consider?
Totally like runner-ups, and in no particular order, right? You have Stephen Curry. No doubt the guy has changed the game. He's changed the game. Okay. I know, Daryl, you said it's all about entertainment and falling in love with the player's game. I have to go with my boy Akeem Olajuwon. So he's definitely up there. Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, back-to-back champion. Other people that I looked at were Dirk Nowitzki as well. I thought the guy was absolutely amazing. And then last person I left off was just Tim Duncan, right? The big fundamental. The guy went to work every day. You got the exact same thing. He played at a high level day in, day out. A lot of that also is attributed to the coaching system, but he was the perfect player for the perfect coach.
Well, I like, you kind of said you had Tim Duncan and Dirk in there. I can see how some of this, and there's so many what ifs I looked at. What if Dirk had played for San Antonio? Would he have won more championship? What if, some players that go to a different team, would things change? But you can't worry about what ifs, So I agree. Those were great other picks. How about you, Daryl? Who else? Who would you also had considered?
Uh, Man, I mean, like you said, Tim Duncan is a big one. Uh, you got to go. If we could do tandems, man, it would be Stockton and Malone, that type of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
man. Kevin Garnett. I
Oh,
mean, my
Yeah.
goodness, the guy's a beast, man. You know, some of those. Let me see, like Rajon Rondo, man, who just go out there and pass that rock around like nobody's business, man. And but yeah, those are some people that I really enjoy based on the criteria that I gave you. Those are guys that I really love and enjoy. And look here, and let me say this too: none of my five are current players in the NBA.
What?
Because yeah, real. Because like we said, church, you have to run on to see what the end is going to be before you start talking
Oh,
about you the
that's true.
greatest of all time. You know,
well,
so
I can't wait to hear
so
this list.
Well,
I can't wait to hear this.
I agree with that. When I was going through, some of mine were Hakeem. I thought him, Tim Duncan. I put on there Steph also, and I think in those he may be, depending on how it turns out. If he can pop up another championship or MVP, and once he retires, this list could change.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right, and the order might change. Because LeBron's still playing, but those are some of the guys that I also had considered. But now we're getting to the point that everyone's been waiting for, and they're going to comment on. They're going to say that Bruce, you're a genius, but we'll see. Marcus, what's your top five? And
All right. Coming in at number five.
number
And
five.
if you would have asked me this again 10 years ago, this guy would have been on my list, but you cannot deny the number of championships, his impact on the game, and that is Mr. Bill Russell. He's
Mm-hmm.
definitely there. Number four, Showtime himself. I mean, the guy could play all five positions, and he did play all five positions when it was time to step up. And that's our boy, Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Number three, I mean, come on, guy. I know he just got toppled in terms of the most points of all time, but the guy is still on my Mount Rushmore, and that is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. As we bring it down to our top two, and there's no surprises here, as much as we see this guy criticized, the longevity, the stats, the leadership. I mean, the guy is just the ultimate basketball player. He may not be the GOAT, but he is the greatest individual player, and that's going to be our guy, LeBron James. And no surprise here, number one, our guy, I'm sorry, Magic, Michael Air Jordan. I'm sorry, 6 championships, 6 final appearances, won all 6. I mean, his legacy it continues. Like you're still wearing, LeBron wears the MJ logo on his athletic apparel. The guy is just that good. Sorry, he changed the game. He is the greatest of all time. End of discussion. Boom.
Boom. Well, end of discussion. We're going to continue it. Daryl, top five.
hey man, so yeah, I had to go with people who I was familiar with that I watched play. I know history is one thing, but who did I watch play and made an impact on the way that I saw the game? All right, man. So Marcus, get your tomatoes and eggs and stuff ready. You're gonna be throwing them at me, I'm sure. Number 5, Allen Iverson, because he is the king of the crossover dribble and breaking ankles. And hey, look, look, and that's what everybody's still doing today. You get on Sports Center, you get on the top 10 if you cross somebody over and made them fall over and hurt themselves. Yeah, Allen Iverson. Number 4, Hakeem, the Dream, Olajuwon.
All
Why
right.
Hakeem? Because we watched him night after night. The offense went through him, inside out. kick it down to Akeem. He draw the double, triple, sometimes quadruple team, and he kick it out to the open shooter, or he'll make a move with the basketball. He was great on defense. I think that's what you said, Marcus, the defensive player of the year a
Yep.
couple times.
Well, I think 2 times.
2 times, yeah. Yeah. Hakeem Olajuwon. That's he's one of the greatest. And number 3, Shaquille O'Neal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he's big, massive, and strong, and did everything he learned from Hakeem, but he did it a little bit better because he evolved. He took it was an evolution type thing. So I'm gonna watch what this guy do, and I'm gonna do it. And hey, he did it. He did it. Number 2, Michael Jordan.
Oh,
Michael
God.
Jordan.
Oh, man.
Now, Marcus, if you remember back in the day, I didn't even like Jordan.
Yeah.
When he was in the game, he was currently in the game. I did not like the dude, but you have to give credit where credit is due, man. He's a phenomenal basketball player. I'm surprised that it's not his logo that's on the NBA. His picture that's on the NBA logo. We're really surprised, because he made the biggest contribution to basketball more than anyone. Then number 1. My absolute favorite, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant. Now, Marcus, Kobe wasn't even on your list, was he?
Kobe would have been on my honorable mentions, and the reason why is because he's essentially a carbon copy of Michael Jordan. It's essentially like that's how I look at him. He just basically said, "Okay, Jordan, you retire. I'll do exactly what you," and it worked for him, right? A couple of decisions, he would have went to the final, got 6 championships himself. So, but yeah, now he's definitely up. He's in my top 10, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce, what you got?
Well, that's a good list. And then Kobe was on my ones to look at, and it was surprising to me he wasn't in my top 5. So it's based on the numbers. Number 5 was a tie between and Jabbar. They both were tied. Strangely, so I would never have thought Duncan was going to get up there, right? And I thought Jabbar would be higher. But I went with Duncan for number 5 only because he had more MVPs. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's just strictly numbers. All right. Then next, Magic Johnson was number 4. Okay. Just based on the numbers. Here's one that's a little surprising for you guys, probably, is LeBron James. Is next. Number 3, James, he tied with Bill Russell. I went with Bill Russell, number 2, because Bill Russell had 11 championships in 13 years. I'm like, I don't know how you go away from that many championships, and I know there's an argument he was in a different era. I don't know, but if you're just looking at the numbers, I don't know how you go away from 11 championships in 13 years. And then just based on the numbers itself, Jordan was number 1.
Yep.
Just because he had the 6 championships, then added up with his MVPs, both 6 MVPs and in the championships and MVPs in regular season. The numbers just added up that Jordan is number 1. So that's my list.
I think you and I have the exact same list, right? Just a little bit of a different order in terms of right? Because I have Russell, Magic. Did you have Magic Johnson?
I have Magic Johnson.
Magic Johnson. Okay, we had the same list. I mean, I don't know what universe Daryl is coming from with Allen Iverson. And again, I love me Hakeem Olajuwon, but it's kind of hard to put him and Shaq in there. That was a tough one for me. But hey, Daryl, more power to you, my brother. More power to you.
Well, yeah, because it's based on inspiration. It's based on how I feel about the people that's playing.
Oh yeah. If I was going totally on the player I had the most inspiration for, it'll be Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, I'm from town with you, brother. So I sat there and I watched the entirety of his game and the emotional roller coaster we were all on watching that brother do his thing. So yeah, I'm with you. But I'm looking at the stats, trying to be as objective as possible and unbiased as possible. That's how I went with my 5.
Right.
Yep.
And if you change cities, someone from a different city, they have a whole nother number one in that regard. You see what
Okay.
I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
so yeah. I
Keep
mean,
it-
hey,
keep it
this
some of the
this was
small-
fun.
I'm sorry, I was saying I was agreeing with you. Particularly in some of the smaller markets, I think the Lakers and the Celtics, they're just they're going to get name recognition just because who they are, which kind of gives Jordan a little bit of credit too, just to be, I know Chicago's a big city, but I mean, we don't pay attention to the Bulls that much. So, I mean, he broke out of that. One thing all these guys had too, they did have strong sidekicks. I think that's important too, and I think
Yeah.
here it is at what if we, someone else was on a different team, and, it changes thing. Also for mine with these numbers, if LeBron James happens to win another championship for MVP, not looking strong likely, but I mean, that changes the number list as well too, and Steph Curry. But anyway,
Yeah.
any other thoughts, you guys?
No, I think when you mentioned the stuff you mentioned sidekicks a moment ago, and that's the one thing about LeBron. That's what fundamentally keeps him off my top, like from ascending to the top position, is that he's moved around so much, right? And he's built himself a pathway by associating himself with teams that have a short or a highly likely path to a championship. It's not like he built a culture from the ground up like some of the other players that we're talking about. But aside from that, I mean, you can't, like I said, if I was a mad scientist and I was building the perfect player, LeBron James would be the product.
And I kind of thought Larry Bird would have gone up a little bit higher too.
Yeah,
It seems like when he went to the Celtics, that team became great because he was, a good leader. So, from
yeah,
different emotional standpoints, I could see him going higher.
totally. Yeah, he totally, and he should have been in the honorable mentions. That's a big miss on all of us to not bring him up
And
early.
that's that what if also. He
Fantastic.
was in the same era as Magic, I mean, easily
Yeah.
if Magic could have had 3 more championships, maybe Bird had 3, you never know, but that's the way the numbers played out. Anything else, Daryl, from you?
Nah, man, I'm just sitting here thinking about so many other people that were freaking amazing, like Reggie Miller and
Ooh,
oh
God.
my goodness, man. And then I started thinking about game moments where we watch Reggie Miller throw the choke sign over at Spike Lee, and that's what I'm talking about when I say the entertainment of it all. Charles Barkley,
Barkley, yeah.
with his behavior on court. Dennis Rodman,
Uh,
and I know these guys will never be considered the greatest of all time, but when I think about my favorite, that's what I associate with the GOAT. Who was my favorite? And these are some of the guys that like at the top of my list. Although on the greatest of all time list, they're probably like at the very bottom, and I get it.
Yeah.
oh, good. It's your greatest of all time list, Daryl.
Well, and too, another one I left off was Chamberlain. I thought he might,
Yeah.
have gone up there higher. I think he easily could have played in this era, any era. He's a beast. So the main thing is, I think any of these guys that we have in there, I take them on my team easy.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this in closing. 10 years from now, and I know we're not trying to keep this assigned to agenda, but man, I'm watching this Caitlin Clark, man. This girl is bringing some serious heat to women's basketball.
Oh yeah, she's
I'm excited to see her going to the W. I mean, she's bringing in more ratings to the collegiate women's basketball sport than the WNBA. This girl is amazing.
And then I watched it last night. Did you see the game last night? I mean, they won by 1 point. That play, that smart play she made at the end. I mean, that was that basketball smarts we've spoken about too. She's got that too. So, well, anyway, we're going to close this up. Please, leave us some comments. Let us know your top 5. Tell us why each one of us were right
or wrong.
And okay. And we'll see you next time. On tailgating. So thanks, everyone. See you later.
Peace.
Peace.